In today's video, we're taking you to one of Florida's easiest scuba dives. That's the Blue Heron Bridge in Palm Beach County. Situated nearby the Palm Beach Inlet, there's plenty of ocean water that circulates through, which allows many of the sea creatures there to flourish. We're also going to stop by the local dive shop and speak with Jeff Nelson, who's one of the people who have helped pass regulations which help to protect the Blue Heron Bridge. But first, we have to make sure our dive gear still works. I'm Jesse, and you're watching Outside is Calling.
Intro video.
Tucker!
Right.
All right, we're in the pool. We haven't had our scuba gear on in what, about a year, Jenny? How long has it been? You haven't scubaed in a long time.
Oh, we went down for lobster, mini lobster season.
Oh yeah.
That was July? June,
Yeah.
That was June.
Our air is 10 months old. We found out that we don't care, it's just fine. Some people worry about stale air, if your air gets stale. We had our tanks in Mexico and all over for like 2 years, and we had this old tank full of old air. It was fine. Yeah, we had a tank we took to Mexico and back. Or no, actually we used it in Mexico, but it was a 2-year-old tank. Tucker's gonna help.
Can you blow?
Oh, cool.
Don't blow out, breathe in.
All right, we're gonna test out our gear and we'll see how it works. Hey, can you breathe through that snorkel? Can you breathe through it? Oh, wow.
I can't.
Are you a scuba diver? So like right now.
Whoa, Tucker.
Whoa, don't fall in that water. Like right now, I'd have to go here, clip, clip, rip, and I could be free. Which isn't that hard, but when you're like in distress, it's hard to think clearly.
Yeah.
There's a saying like you always, in an emergency, you always revert back to whatever you've been trained to. 1, 2, 3. Tucker's got a thing about peeing and things. He just used Jenny's snorkel to pee in. This is the snorkel she's going to use in about an hour to go scuba diving. Did you clean it out for Mommy?
This mommy.
That's Mommy's. Did you pee in it?
Yeah.
How come?
Look at that.
On our drive south to the Blue Heron Bridge, we swung by the local dive shop and spoke with Jeff Nelson. He's not just a dive instructor, he's one of the people who have helped to preserve this area for future generations.
Well, the Blue Heron Bridge is kind of a unique little area because it's actually shielded in rough seas. When it's rough out on the beaches, you have a nice, almost like a lagoon effect where you're protected by the inlet. And it's just a good ecosystem where we have a lot of different variety of animals can come there. You see things from as big as a shark to as little as nudibranches. The most common thing we always get is the tide. When's a good time to dive it? The hour before high tide. Some will say half an hour, some will say 45 minutes, but hour is probably about the earliest. If you're kind of a seasonal diver and you kind of know how to work the current, you could probably get in and sneak in a little bit earlier, but hour before is a good time to get in, and then you have the hour after. So when you have the tide coming in, what happens is you have the flow of water, it flows in, so you got a little bit of current. So if you go in too early, and if you hit certain parts of the dive site, they can be overwhelming and actually pull you around the island. So that's why you don't want to go too early. Just at the right time, you can actually go in, and you have about a good solid 15 minutes of before and 15 minutes after of absolutely what they call slack tide, which there's no current whatsoever. So a lot of times when we time it where we all swim a certain pattern on the at the Blue Heron Bridge, where we hit it, where the current's not so strong, we can coast in, and then when it stops, then we kind of coast back out and come back to our exit point, which is actually the easiest way. It's almost like diving a drift dive and letting Mother Nature take you in and Mother Nature take you back out.
All right, here we are at the Phil Foster State Park. I think, is this a state park? So here we are at Phil Foster Park at the Blue Heron Bridge. This is the big bridge that goes over to the beach, and underneath it is incredible shore diving. There's tons of divers here because it's a very popular place. Prime time here is 1 hour before and 1 hour after high tide. So we just hit our 1 hour window. We're gonna get suited up and head out there. There's a good chance of seeing seahorses, manta rays, manatees, all kinds of cool animals here. So fingers crossed, we'll see some cool things. I just hide my gut.
As of right now, there is no pay for parking. So the boat trailers have to pay for parking. So it's worldwide known, the Blue Heron Bridge. I was just talking to a gentleman that came in here that was from Tokyo, and he says, "Yeah, I heard about the Blue Heron Bridge all the way into Tokyo." So I was like, "Wow, you know, I get people from Ireland." So it's just worldwide known. Palm Beach, the Blue Heron Bridge was actually recognized as being the top 10 in muck diving, because it is somewhat of a soft sand in certain areas and a gritty sand, so it's classified as muck.
Wait a minute, did we drive all the way down here to see some shopping carts and some broke-ass boats? An artificial reef is a man-made underwater structure which promotes marine life. Many reefs are built by deploying existing materials in order to create a reef. It's very common to use whatever is available, such as old ships, rubble tires, construction debris, or in this case, an old boat and a shopping cart. So Jenny's really good at finding creatures. And even out here in this flat area where there's very few features, not much reef, Jenny came across this long-arm octopus. And it was a really, really cool creature to watch. We spent several minutes watching this octopus and just to see what does it do. Every so often it would pulse this really cool little camouflage on its chest. This little pulse of color would go from light to dark, and it was pretty cool. And now watch here as the Atlantic long-arm octopus goes into this hole. All of its legs are busy looking for food, or I'm guessing for food, but they're looking around and they're searching the earth. This one here just found a small hole, and then it comes over to here and it finds this deeper hole, and look how far down it goes. What's that, probably 3 or 4 inches down into a hole? That would scare the crap out of me putting my hand into a hole, but it must be how this octopus finds its food. This right here is called the tripod stance. You can see that the long-armed octopus is actually elevated up off the ground a few inches. By assuming this tripod stance, it can get a view of the terrain, see if there's any predators, and probably also see if there's any prey. Or in this case, see if those 2 annoying divers have finally left the area. This was an incredible experience, to say the least, and we were super excited that we captured the whole experience on video. The Blue Heron Bridge area is internationally recognized by scientists, scuba divers, underwater photographers, and snorkelers for its abundance of unique marine life.
You have to understand, even if you're in the middle of the sand, you still have to be careful watching with your fins and about laying down on the ground. Good buoyancy control, I can never stress that enough. Being an instructor myself, I'm always very stern with people understanding that you have to have good buoyancy control, because you never know whose home you're laying on top of. You have garden eels, you got the little nudibranchs you can't see, baby seahorses, so things like that. Watch your fins. So I tell divers, when you're swimming, you gotta keep your fins up so you're not kicking up the sand. It also messes up the visibility for everybody that's behind you as well. So you have to watch those things. So good buoyancy control, good timing, make sure you don't go in too early. Know your limits, monitor your air, because a lot of divers have to understand they have to be back at a certain time. So things like that.
Squid, octopus, spotted rays, and starfish are seen regularly, and a snorkel trail made of limestone boulders and prefabricated reef modules spans a 2-acre area. Over 600 tons of rock were used to build this artificial reef.
So yeah, so a group of us, one of the things that I was trying to do was, I've always wanted to get the park protected. We kind of got blocked a little bit from the officials, but I think it was just a matter of how we worded it. So I took the owner from the store here and myself, took a scientist, and then I took a photographer and her husband, and we actually went over and actually made our first pitch to FWC. And with a big following from the local other dive shops and the dive community and the fishing community, we got a big following. Turned around and had it protected so that they can't collect any aquatic marine life there. Yeah, unfortunately what happens is the educational facilities try to get it for studies. So they get a special, what they call a SAL license from the FWC. It's a special activity license. And they're allowed to collect a certain amount of species of fish. So that's on this list. So depending on what they want to collect. Unfortunately, this one group, they stayed in that spot. They were supposed to pretty much go the whole coast of Florida, and instead they stayed right there at the bridge because it's so many different varieties there. For them, it was just easy picking. So and it got too much, and then that was kind of made the FWC say we had to step this up, and that's where it got pushed even faster. Correct. Yeah, you definitely need a boat. We don't have anything shore directly here until you go down to Fort Lauderdale area. Yeah. So they have some nice Fort Lauderdale down by the sea. They have a nice swim. It's about it's a little bit of a swim, but nothing like the bridge where you only have to walk so many feet and you're in the water. So that definitely it makes it a little nice for the bridge as well. My name's Jeff Nelson. I'm a scuba instructor. I work at 4C Scuba Center in Riviera Beach, Florida. When you guys come down, just make sure you do your research so you know your tides. Bring a flag and just be safe divers, watch your air. So we all like to have a fun time and just be respectful to the environment.
Do you handshake?
Yeah.
Thank you
All right.
so much for your time.
Okay.
I appreciate it. All right, we just finished our scuba here at the Blue Heron Bridge in Phil Foster Park. That was pretty fun. You just literally park right there. You park, you walk 50 feet and you're doing a beach dive, and as you can see, there's some pretty cool stuff to see here. I mean, even for the kids, there's all kinds of families here hanging out, just enjoying the water, playing around. So it's good for a lot of people for different needs, whether it's scuba diving or snorkeling or just enjoying the water. So I can definitely say this is well worth the time to come here if you find yourself in the area and are looking for something fun to do. We had a lot of fun today. So thank you for joining us, and I'll see you in the next video.